Hello, I'm Riley, and this is the Diegetic Advancement Podcast. I thought about doing an introduction episode, but I figured just jumping in and sharing rather than telling might be the best way to do it. To save some people's time, though, this podcast, broadly speaking, is going to be about sharing my thoughts and experiences on tabletop role-playing games. What follows is a few short segments, which will hopefully give you a good sampling of what future episodes might be like. On to the first segment. Here I'll generally share my ideas and thoughts on RPG theory. This week I want to talk about the Quantum Ogre, originally described by Courtney Campbell on their Hack and Slash blog, which you should go check out along with their products. What I'm about to say is certainly not new, and I'll likely not educate anyone listening, but there is a common misconception that I see online that I want to cover. Okay, so what is the Quantum Ogre? I'll describe it with an example. Simply, if a party is traveling and there are two roads, A and B, and if they decide to take road A, they will encounter an ogre. And if they decide to take road B, they will encounter an ogre. Why is this bad? It takes away player agency. No matter their choice, they encounter an ogre, right? It's often then extrapolated that random encounters are bad, or using content that you'd prepped previously that the party missed is bad, among other things. This is the wrong interpretation. Let's re-examine the simple explanation. Did the party actually have a choice when they came to the fork in the road? No, they did not, at least not a meaningful one. So when they encounter an ogre on either road, we actually haven't robbed them of their agency because they had never had any to begin with. Consider this example instead. The party is in their dungeon. There are two corridors. One is full of bones, which the party takes time to examine and determines that they are human and the marrow has been sucked out, and they take the time to listen and hear a low, grumbling voice. Deciding this is too dangerous, they take the other corridor, which is ritually appointed with red, clean carpets and art on the walls. If they encounter the ogre here, when he was actually down the other corridor, then their agency has been taken away. They've taken time to gather information so they can make a meaningful choice, and that information then didn't matter. So, there are two key takeaways if you care about player agency. One, choices need to be meaningful to grant player agency. Make sure there are clues and information which the players can use if they spend time to inform their decisions. And two, if players have spent time gathering information in order for them to make a meaningful choice, don't make it meaningless by moving things around. Of course, Courtney made this point well and better than I could, with the confusion only arising from secondhand readings. So go read his post, and the details of that will be in the show notes. On to the next segment. I own way too many RPG products, and many of them will never see the table or get much use, which is a shame. There are a lot of new products that I come across, so my plan for this segment is to showcase some of them. This week will be a quick one, covering Meatheads. Written by Mark Conway, edited and developed by Matt Kay, and graphic design and development by Eric Hill. Meatheads takes an old D&D and chainmail chassis with some inspiration from Whitehack, Wolves Upon the Coast, and Troika. If we look at the stats, it should tell you plenty about the type of game and characters you'll play. Instead of the traditional 6, there is only 1, Strength. So you play a muscle-bound meathead, going on typical D&D adventures, likely with a strength sport twist, like the one included, Wrestling the Muscle Cult. With included rules for feats of strength, which is a similar system to boasting from Wolves Upon the Coast, wrestling, including signature moves, and an Appendix M, standing for muscle, which includes Conan, Predator, and Pumping Iron. But strangely omits John Paul Sigmason, who famously said, "There is no reason to play D&D if you can't do deadlift." Future segments might go further in depth, but I'm trying to pack a lot into this episode, so I'll leave it at that. Meatheads is available as pay as you want on itch, with the jam, which should be currently happening, and a print edition to come in 2024. Go check it out. Details are in the show notes. And into the next segment. In this segment, I'm going to talk about my quest to play more games and better games. I recently read Tony Barth's Ancient Wargaming by John Curry, and it was a really fascinating read, and it's really got me wanting to play more war games and incorporating that into my role-playing games. So to get myself more acquainted with this part of the hobby, I've decided to start a narrative wargaming campaign. The way that I'm going to handle it is I'm going to invite some friends, or if anyone's listening and it sounds like fun, please let me know, to play the heads of a small group of war bands, and they will submit orders, say, send this many men here, send this many men here, and I will then play out those orders, move the figures around on a map, and where opposing figures come into contact, I will play out a small skirmish wargame scenario solo. Once I've resolved all the orders and any skirmishes, I will submit back an after action report, and we'll continue that process. The setting for this is going to be a ruined city, and an asteroid has hit this city and sprinkled some valuable rare resource, which is the reason why these warbands are going to go in and trying to collect that resource. And the winning condition is going to be to collect some amount of that. And so I've already drawn up a map and sprinkled out around the resources, deciding on a rule system for playing out these skirmishes. I think I've settled on Turnip 28, which is a pretty rules light system, which will help me resolve these skirmishes in a fairly timely fashion. But I need to detail a bunch of rules about how am I going to take orders, how to what's the composition of each warband, how are they going to move around their map, am I going to have injuries and death, uh, how they collect the resources, how many do they need to win, and so as this segment continues from week to week, I will be discussing my thoughts on that and the decisions that I come to. And once I start, I'll detail how the games are going and progressing, and the things that I learn from running that. As I said, if that sounds interesting and you want to be a part of it, let me know. And once I start, I'll get you involved. Or if you've got any experience running something similar and you've got advice to give, I'm willing to hear it. In the last segment, I'm going to share some of the content I've been consuming this week. Everything I talk about here will be in the show notes. First up, Mirke the Meek shared an interesting random generation method, which he called ladder generation. There's a free product on his itch page and a podcast about it. 3D6 down the line wrapped up their playthrough of a preview adventure from the Dolmenwood setting. Brad and Yohai reviewed the Troika adventure Slate and Chalcedony on Between Two Cans. And Troika's latest adventure, Wolgravak's Warehouse, is 50% off in PDF. My copy of Justin Alexander's So You Want to Be a Game Master has just shipped, and Todd from Hex Press interviews Justin about the book. Daniel and KR talk about GM narration on the Monsters and Treasure podcast. Joe from the Decahedron podcast talks about advantages and disadvantages in his game, Lucky 7. Daniel from Bandit's Keep releases a video about player creativity. And Jason from the Nerds RPG Variety Cast has a call-in show. This month's Movie Monday will be Conan. If that sounds interesting, watch some Conan this Christmas and call into Jason's show. Okay, that's episode 1 in the bag. If anyone is listening, I'd love to hear your feedback. You can reach me via Spotify, SpeakPipe, Discord, or email. Details, along with everything I've talked about today, are in the show notes. Bye for now.